Hello, my name is Mariana, and today this is a reading for Cancer. So Cancer, as usual, I'm doing your reading with my own tarot deck, so the cards that you'll see are from this deck. Cancer, although your reading today feels kind of heavy and it has a positive side to it, because I feel like there is an intense phase of healing and identifying what was hurting you and stitching definitely or permanently some kind of wound, some kind of unresolved issue that could have been lingering on and surrounding you, almost like if you weren't looking at it, it's like it was always behind you, right? It's like almost like out of grasp, right? And I feel like here, what this message is showing me is that you finally see it. It's like, it's almost like if either you were escaping it unconsciously, or if even when you were trying to see and face this thing, this issue, this problem, this memory, this wound, it was always out of reach, right? I feel like now is the moment that you have your full conscious, your full awareness directed at this. And I feel like that it's like the action of healing is in place, and that is bringing a lot of light to it. And I feel like the light is the stitching of it, right? It's like it's creating this way out of this kind of like frustration, to be honest. It's almost like until now, Cancer, you have been dealing with something, but always feeling like it wasn't completely done, right? It's like going at it, but like very not fully, right? Always having like a residue, or like knowing that you didn't address it, directly. I don't know if I'm expressing that well, but let me show you the cards, because it is intense until the end, right? The end is kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel. So we're starting with the Seven of Swords. This card was talking about being surrounded by the sense of being attacked, or the sense of being always in a way down environment, right? Where everything feels heavy, where there's always words of aggression, is what I'm hearing because of the swords. There's something that you knew that the environment that you were in, and maybe that you're still in, Cancer, it's not the most healthy, it's not the most sustainable, it's not the most uplifting, right? So it can be in different degrees of heaviness, maybe. But because of the shape of this card, the way that I'm seeing this, it's, as I said, it's like always trying to face one thing, right? Trying to address the problem, looking for ways to try to resolve this issue, but always learning afterwards that there was something left, right? That you didn't completely address it, right? You didn't completely yes, you identified part of the problem, let's say, but it still surrounds you, right? This is what this is showing me. But at the same time, I feel like because this is almost like something that you have been dealing with for your entire life. It's almost like, the life that you have known is embedded in this environment. And because of the heaviness of this environment, which may give you the sensation of frustration, right? Because it's almost like you almost, sometimes if you're looking in a certain direction and you thought that you could find a way out. It was almost like you were there, right? You were back in that cycle, in that vicious cycle, perhaps. But now, with this card coming next, the Knight of Swords, I feel like, so this card is coming through as action, right? It's interesting because it's like, yes, it's a very active card, but today it's coming through with the word action, right? And it's like a thoughtful action, being the Knight of Swords, but a thoughtful action. So here, the way that I was seeing the Seven of Swords, Cancer, is that you're this one in the middle here, right? Always trying to look for a gap, for a way out of the situation that feels like it's surrounding you, and always there, right? Always there, always behind you, always sneaking up, always trying to find a way uh, um, to affect you in a way, right? But here you are as the Knight of Swords, and I feel like this might be a change in your perception, a shift in your way of seeing this, not from inside, but rather from outside. So this is when you are actually acting upon it, right? Here it was almost like you were running in circles in a sense, or you were maybe punishing yourself, right? Unconsciously, I want to say, because here you come with this awareness of, I cannot be inside this so that I can perceive it for what it is. I have to be on the outside, and that's when you have an insight, right? So the Sun card coming out after this Knight of Swords is backing you up. It's actually coming through as the light of God. And I know this might be very specific, but it's actually what I'm hearing with the Sun card. The light of God is protecting you, is backing you up, Cancer, and is helping you to act with, it's interesting because it's coming through now, because this Knight of Swords is acting with words, but it's kind of like using light language, because the light of God is protecting you in a sense. It's guiding you. And this is so okay, there is a distinction here. If you were in an environment, Cancer, where words of aggression or like this heaviness in the atmosphere was always surrounding you, the way that you act upon it to get rid of this and to stitch this situation, because the Six of Pentacles coming next is like permanent stitches, right? The bridge out of this situation. Because here it was like perpetuating itself, right? It was like this vicious cycle of you trying to approach it, you know, facing one side of it, but there was always something coming behind you. So here, this changes, and I feel like this is yes, it comes with courage, but it's not an action that is aggressive, right? Because that's the thing, right? Perhaps you were in an environment that maybe you talked back, right? It's like in order to defend yourself perhaps from these aggressions, you were always having to put on a shield. Sometimes I see the sevens also as shields. So it's like, but this was only in front of you, right? It's like there was always like this other aggression coming behind you. I don't know if that makes sense, Cancer, but you thought that you were protecting yourself that way, but you weren't really, right? It was always coming back around. So, but here, this action is not an action that is aggressive. It's not perpetuating that cycle. It's not repeating the same pattern, right? It's actually looking from the outside, and it's being backed up by the sun. So the sun is helping you to act upon this with intelligence, but it's like this higher intelligence, right? It's like the intelligence of light, right? So this is a reason, right? I'm saying it's like perhaps the words that you're using, and perhaps it's not even words, right? It could be just vibration, the vibration of this light of God, right? That you're using to stitch it, right? It's like the way that I'm seeing this, it's like perhaps it's mending a relationship, right? Perhaps it's mending the environment, right? Because the environment, I feel like the heaviness of the air, right? The density of the room. So, or even like your own thoughts, your own minds, right? Your own mind. It's like being very weighed down because of the environment, because of the words exchanged in that environment, or just the way how to relate with people in that environment. So the Six of Pentacles is this mending, right? I'm seeing these here as like, you know, literally stitching, but stitching in a very powerful way because of the sun, but also very I'm trying to describe the subtlety or the density of your action, because it's it is emphatic in a way because it's coming through as the night, but it at the same time it's like it is subtle, right? Because you're not using the same, well, if this is the shield, it's almost like you were using the same kind of tools, right? Or like one tool from the same toolbox that the others in this room, or the other in this room was using to bring on this aggression, right? So the toolbox here is entirely different, right? And that's why this is a permanent stitching and not some like quick fix. Doesn't make sense. So this is the bridge out. This is the way to mend this relationship, and I want to say permanently, because it's like it's pouring, right? The stitches are coming from the light of God. So this awareness, it's not one that is your human brain, right? It's like source, right? It's like this pure light that comes from source. So if you allow this to back you up, which I feel like it is happening, and it's happening through you, maybe through your own words, through your own energetic, it is creating this bridge to restore, in a sense, a dynamic, but it doesn't have to do much with how the other person is going to perceive this, right? It has to do with you, with how you feel like you have found a way out. Because here, Cancer, we have the way out, in a sense. And because you have been surrounded by this heaviness, by the density, maybe your entire life, it's not, as I said, it's not an easy way out, right? There is no way to fix this in a second, in a snap of the fingers, right? It has to be built. It has to be kind of like step by step manifested into becoming a permanent fix, right? Because here we have the Page of Swords and the Nine of Swords. So I feel like there have been perhaps a lot of words exchanged in this environment, or maybe it's more in regards to your frustration in thinking that you could deal with this if you were defending yourself, or if you were facing this and not, you know, facing away, right? And not looking away. It's like that's the thing. It's like you never bailed out. You never looked away, right? You always faced this. You always defended yourself, but in a way that you were part of the vicious cycle. So I feel like this might have been like the only tool that you thought that you had. But now that you're seeing, in a sense, another perspective, which is a lot more, it's like it's talking about the totality of all, right? It's like the infinity of the light of God, or the infinity of the universe, right? It's like what you're seeing now is completely different than what you saw this situation. And that's why you're acting upon it. That's the reason why this came as action, because the way that the page is coming through is, it's kind of like going back to an old wound when you were a kid. It's okay, so what I'm hearing now is like, remember the moment that you lost your innocence. That's the key. That's the key that will start to mend this relationship, because this is what needs to be illuminated by this light of God. So it's like, go back to the moment that you felt like you were being depleted, like really ripped from your innocence, right? So, because the pages to me are coming through with innocence, right? Since yesterday in the Gemini reading, because of this workshop that I'm doing with Paula Selig called Reclaiming Innocence, the pages are talking about that. And I feel like that's in here for you too, Cancer. And in a way, it feels like it's going to be painful, right? Maybe you are anticipating that it's going to be extremely painful, right? With the Nine of Swords. But I feel like this is actually, so here you see how this is constantly happening again, right? It's the vicious cycle. It's the thing that you thought that you were defending, but actually you were just contributing for its reproduction. So yeah, it's like, even if you weren't aware, even if this was completely detrimental to you, right? Feeling like you didn't like to be in this density, you didn't like to be in this heavy environment, maybe your non-action, right? Maybe or at least your way of defending yourself, however it was, right? Facing it or just not reacting to it, right? It's like it was just helping to bring more of it, right? To keep this cycle alive. And when you see it from the outside with the Knight of Swords, I feel like the way out of it, right? Because here we have this path, here we have this path. It's very different than this, right? This is an ongoing cycle, a never-ending cycle. But the way out is, it's like removing a splinter, right? It's like you have to go to that moment, back to that memory of when you remember that you lost your innocence, right? Maybe there was a moment that you realized something shifted in your brain, something shifted in your way of seeing this person, seeing this dynamic, perceiving who you were or what was your place in this dynamic, right? And that is going to be your way out, right? Because here it's like you are frustrated because you don't know how to remove yourself from this. But here, because of this, because of what is backing you up, it's like no matter how hard this is, it's like you have the light of God behind you, protecting you, guiding you, illuminating you, and creating some sort of permanent fix, right? A permanent mending to something that you thought was impossible. And I feel like no matter how hard you anticipate this to be, ending here with the Ace of Cups, I feel like the healing that is coming, Cancer, is far greater than what you imagine. Because I feel like here, what you're seeing, what you are anticipating is that is going to be extremely painful, right? Is going to be like reliving this all over again. But actually, is not. It's actually going to be felt in a completely different way, right? It is the restoration of your heart. It is this healing, the permanent healing, because the way that I'm seeing this heart is like a full heart, right? It's almost like if if this was kind of like a cancer in your life, right? And I don't mean like another person cancer, like a cancerian, right? I mean like an actual disease, right? Just as an example, cancer, please. So if this was sort of like an ongoing kind of disease, right? Inside your heart, mostly, right? And feeling defeated every single time because of the Seven of Swords. I feel like the way that you leave this moment when you realize that you not only are reclaiming your innocence, but you are restoring what you lost. Because here is the feeling that you lost and you can never, ever have this back. And that's exactly what is coming back, what is being restored. It's like your full heart is being restored, right? It's like going back to scan your heart in a sense and realizing that there is no speck of any cancer, of any disease, of any type of wound, right? It's a symbol, it's a metaphor. So this healed heart, right? It's not a healing heart, it's a healed heart. You see the difference? Because you allowed yourself to go back there once again. But this time you're different because you're not suffering like you used to, right? You're not defending yourself, or you're not frustrated because you don't know how to deal with this. It's like, in fact, you are taking a different action, right? Because you're, in a sense, you are trusting this light, right? You are being guided by it. And that's what is creating this permanent fix, this permanent healing that is healing, that is creating this like real positive effect, right, in your heart. So yeah, I feel like saying, no matter how hard it is, and maybe you still think it will be until it ends, right? I feel like you end up this reading, Cancer, with your heart healed, which is very, very good news, right? So, but even though it's very clear so far, I am going to pull more cards for you, Cancer, and also I'm going to pull from the astrological runes in the extended reading. So if you want to join me there, I'll be very happy to see you. You can find the link down below. If not, I'll see you next time. Okay, bye.